Barclays plays a really crucial role in upholding Israel's regime of oppression. So obviously pouring investment and loans into the companies arming Israel, with practically every part of Israel's arsenal of weaponry that it uses to attack the Palestinian people being financed by Barclays Bank. Barclays holds investments and provides loans to companies like BAE Systems, companies like RTX Corporation, that are really crucial in providing Israel with the weaponry that it needs to continue its genocide in Gaza. Without the financing that Barclays is providing, these companies would be unable to produce more weaponry, to expand their production, to gain more market share, and continue as profitable businesses. So Barclays plays a really crucial role through that, and then it is also, as Stella said, it acts as a primary dealer for Israel government bonds. Bonds are basically units of debt issued as an IOU by the government, with the bond repaid to the person who buys it at what's called the maturity date. So they're a key way that states use to raise revenue to finance their activities. And obviously in Israel's case, it's massively ramped up its bond issuances since commencing its genocide in Gaza in October 2023 in order to finance the cost of its military operations. In February 2024, so 5 months into Israel's genocide, its Ministry of Finance officials confirmed that that Israel would need to sell, quote, near record amount of bonds in order to keep financing its genocide. Just last week, as I'm sure many of you would have seen, the UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in the occupied Palestinian territory, Francesca Albanese, published a report investigating corporate complicity in Israel's machine of murder and oppression. And this is a quote from the report. As a main source of finance for Israel's state budget, Treasury bonds have played a critical role in funding the ongoing assault on Gaza. End quote. The report names Barclays as having stepped in when Israel was facing a rising budget deficit due to the cost of its genocide, as well as a downgrade to its credit rating in order to, quote, boost market confidence by underwriting these international and domestic treasury bonds, allowing Israel to contain the interest rate premium despite a credit downgrade, end quote. So Barclays has played a crucial role in direct agreement with the Israeli state to aid it in raising finance in order to fund its genocide. And Barclays is the only UK headquartered bank to play this role as a primary dealer. So it's quite unique in terms of the scale of its complicity in Israel's genocide. Taking action against Barclays therefore strikes at both a key facilitator of the UK-Israel arms trade and a key enabler of Israel's of crucial finance for the Israeli state. PSC, alongside Campaign Against the Arms Trade and War on Want, have been campaigning against Barclays since 2022. We've used a variety of tactics to cause reputational and financial damage to the bank. As Stella says, in every arena in which Barclays operates, we've been there to disrupt and challenge its activities. We've held regular days of action in which PSC branches have organised sustained protests at Barclays branches and offices, including peaceful disruptions of business as usual through sittings and occupations. Through this, not only have we been able to engage with many thousands of Barclays customers, we've also created a problem for the bank. It's had to hire extra security to deal with our protests, as well as doing things like checking customers' debit cards to check their Barclays customers on the way in. We've managed to kind of turn Barclays Bank branches into hostile spaces and had an impact on the bank that way. We've also disrupted Barclays' annual general meetings, including its most recent AGM in May. which happened just across the road from here at the QE2 Centre. We've managed to make sure that the whole day was dominated by our protest, both in terms of disrupting inside the AGM, as well as making sure that the kind of Q&A session was dominated by questions about Barclays' complicity in Israel's genocide. Obviously, Barclays has an AGM and uses these events to try and kind of sell itself to its shareholders and present itself as the media as kind of this bank which is doing great things. And obviously we've been there to make sure that the day was dominated by what is the true story, which is Barclays' complicity in Israel's genocide. And since the start of last year, we've held mass account closure days, asking customers to pledge to shut their accounts and switch away from Barclays. And over 6,000 people have now closed their Barclays accounts on these days. As will be spoken about later, the campaign has also challenged Barclays at every event it sponsors. And I think what's been so amazing about the campaigns we've seen targeting Barclays sponsorships of cultural events and sporting institutions, in that they've really seen action from kind of like the grassroots to the grass tips, from the hundreds of bands and artists who pulled out of Barclays-sponsored festivals last year, causing Barclays to abandon all of its music festival sponsorships last year, to, Massive Attack, which is arguably one of the biggest bands, contemporary bands still going in the world, asking for all Barclays advertising to be removed from venues before they play. And obviously the latter would have only been possible because of the former, because of the hundreds of grassroots bands and artists who took action and refused for their labour to be used to whitewash Barclays' activity. And obviously Barclays sponsors these events not because it's a very nice corporation and it wants to support music festivals, it's because they help improve Barclays' reputation, to help present itself as a fun and light bank, to shield itself from accountability for its role in financing Israel's genocide. Barclays has become a toxic brand, and we've put the bank under huge pressure. And we have some indicators of the level of pressure the bank has faced. On its website, Barclays has a front-facing page called, quote, "Setting the Record Straight" on Barclays' links to the defence sector, what is more accurately described as the sector of murder and oppression of arms. And that page effectively responds to our campaign. We've seen Barclays CEO, C.S. Venkatakrishnan, write an op-ed in the mainstream press in an attempt to defend the bank's position, which is a really extraordinary thing. He doesn't usually kind of write op-eds in The Guardian or the Financial Times, but he's seen this as so much of a threat that he's had to publicly defend the bank's position. In these statements, Barclays claims that in fact it only holds shares in companies arming Israel on behalf of its clients. Obviously, this is a completely absurd position. Barclays is the named shareholder for millions of pounds worth of shares of companies arming Israel. And of course, what it doesn't mention is the loans and the underwriting that Barclays provides to these armed companies, over which Barclays has total control. It also completely ignores, and Barclays has never commented publicly, on its role as a primary dealer of Israel government bonds, preferring to keep that hidden. While Barclays hasn't ended its complicity, and the campaign continues to need to escalate, we've sent a message to the bank and the entire financial sector. If you choose to be complicit in Israel's genocide, you will face the force of the Palestine Solidarity Movement, who will protest, picket, and disrupt your activities. We must maintain this pressure, and every action that can be taken at any level helps grow the pressure on the bank and contributes to this campaign. So I'll finish quickly with what you can do. Firstly, join the protests at Barclays branches organised by your local PSC branch on the regular days of action. These are really important events. they allow us to have thousands of one-on-one conversations with Barclays customers, as well as disrupt business as usual in its branches. Join the mass account closure days if you're still a Barclays or Barclays' own Tesco Bank customer, and encourage everyone you know to join them, friends, families, colleagues. Do everything you can to work within your sphere of influence to target Barclays wherever it appears. If Barclays is used by your employer or in your workplace, as a union, petition management to stop using Barclays services. And the crucial thing is, tell your employer to tell Barclays exactly why they'll be stopping using their services. If Barclays is used in your workplace, use it as a means of having conversations about Palestine with your colleagues. The repression of the Palestine solidarity movement aims to isolate us, to make us feel that we are alone, but we know, of course, that a majority of ordinary people in Britain are horrified and sickened by Israel's atrocities and are looking for ways, concrete ways, that they can stand in solidarity with the Palestinian struggle for freedom. Be there by speaking to your colleagues and saying, you know, there is concrete actions you can take to strike at the key enablers of Israel's genocide, like Barclays. If your workplace doesn't use Barclays, ask your local trade union to send information to its members about how to ditch Barclays individually. Also, we know that many councils, local authorities, use Barclays, so start campaigning for them to sever the contract. A handful of councils have now committed to doing so, including Cambridge and Oxford councils, usually as part of broader commitments to divest their funds from companies complicit in Israeli apartheid. Local elections are coming up next year in many places, so councillors will feel the need to be more public-facing than perhaps is usual. So use this as an opportunity to put demands on them. We know across the UK how many people support the Palestinian struggle. Let's make it an issue in those elections if councils continue to use Barclays. As will be discussed further, Barclays uses sponsorships as a way to try and improve its reputation, from Sadler's Wells and Donmar Warehouse to the Premier League and Wimbledon. So wherever Barclays appears, take action there. Call on institutions to drop Barclays. Protest outside events sponsored by Barclays in order to make sure that the sponsorship doesn't do what Barclays wants it to do. It doesn't help improve its reputation, because in fact we're there to talk to everyone at the event about how Barclays is enabling Israel's genocide. So be there in every space that Barclays operates to ensure that it faces pushback, and together we can end Barclays' complicity in Israel's genocide and apartheid. Thanks.